What's good, Marvin Garden enthusiasts? Today we have 3 disturbing true Halloween horror stories, volume 2. So look, this is part 1 for us, but yeah, bro, it is Halloween season. It's October. Let's get into the scary mood, bro. I want to watch some scary stuff. So y'all, give me some scary shit to react to on my Instagram. Instagram is ComplexMario15 at ComplexMario15. I'll put it down in the description. Join the Discord. Let's get it. Yeah, I have a Discord. I don't know if y'all do this. I might make a video promoting it on my main channel. Shit, I need to post up on my main channel.
This happened Halloween of 2008. I was 14 years old and remember being especially excited for that year's Halloween. It fell on a Friday, meaning we could stay out later than usual. I was gonna go trick-or-treating with my friend Matthew.
Yeah, that was always a W if Halloween was on a Friday. I hated when Halloween was on a fucking school day, bro. I hated that shit.
I lived with my dad, who worked night shifts as a security guard.
I fucking hated it.
He was gonna be gone pretty much from sundown
to sunup.
So,
bro, it was always a W if Halloween was on a Friday or Saturday, you know what I'm saying? But if it was on a Sunday through Thursday, fuck, man. Why can't y'all at least give us the day off the next day, man? Fuck.
Matthew and I to do our own thing. Matthew showed up at about 7 p.m., to which we quickly threw on some cheap costumes and headed out. Trick-or-treating in our neighborhood was always the worst. We lived in this foresty area where the houses were really spread out. We probably walked a good quarter mile between each door.
Black forces, bro, watch.
But at the same time, I think the homeowners kind of realized this, as they would typically hand out larger amounts of candy to make up for it. Of course, we'd see other trick-or-treaters as we walked between houses, but not as many as you'd think. There weren't all too many kids living in the area. We'd been trick-or-treating for about 2 hours, when I noticed someone following us.
Oh, nah,
It was either a grown man or a really tall kid, I couldn't tell. He had a Michael Myers mask covering his face. At first, I thought he was just trick-or-treating like everyone else, but he didn't have a bag to hold candy. And it was just him. It wasn't like he was with his kid or anything. I told Matthew about it, but he wanted to keep going. He reassured me that if the guy kept following us, we could go back. So we continued hitting houses. But the guy did continue to follow us. Something I picked up on pretty quick is that he wasn't even walking up to the house's front doors to get candy. He stayed behind us. Again, I told Matthew. This time I could tell he was a bit more on edge. Coming up was a shortcut through the woods, which led directly to my house. We took it, sprinting as soon as we entered the woods. We had no idea if we were followed, but either way, we immediately started locking all the doors and windows.
Yeah, that's what
I remember I was upstairs locking my bedroom window, when I heard yelling from back downstairs. It was Matthew.
Fuck no.
I ran down to him. He was standing next to the living room window. I asked him what was wrong. He didn't say anything. Instead, he pointed outside the window.
Why would you scream,
I followed his
man?
finger, squinting as my eyes adjusted to the darkness.
What is wrong with
All I could see were trees. I looked back at Matthew. What? He told me the guy in the Michael Myers mask was standing out there. Now I just thought he was trying to scare me. But when I looked back, I actually saw him. He was deep in the forest, halfway covered by one of the trees, just standing there motionless.
Bro, either call the police
I went to the kitchen to grab the phone. I called my dad as I walked back to the window. When he picked up, I told him that there was a stranger outside in a Michael Myers mask.
Like, bro, if you're not about confrontation and someone's following you like that, call the fucking police. But if you're like that, bro, if you're trying to fight the dude, then fight the dude. Well, like,
what
bro, call the police or some shit.
As I was looking out the window, I told him that he was just standing there, watching the house. Look, it's probably just some teenager trying to scare you. Just make sure all the doors are locked and ignore him. That was not the response I was hoping for, but I thought maybe he was right.
Like, what if he has a weapon?
Matthew and I went upstairs to my room and did our best to forget about it. But, of course, it was pretty much all we could think about. We started trying to come up with reasonable explanations. This was interrupted by the sound of glass shattering from downstairs.
This is why
My
I
heart
told
started
y'all to
racing.
call the fucking police.
Neither of us knew what to do.
What do?
The phone was back downstairs.
Like, bro, do you not
We turned off the light and got into the closet. We shuffled to the way back, hiding behind hanging clothes, out of view.
I would have had to get a
The next
weapon.
5 minutes were completely
I ain't gonna
silent.
lie, bro.
Then, footsteps entering the room. They started walking around. My heart was racing. That's when the closet door slowly opened.
The fuck?
A full minute had to have passed of just nothing.
He
Until,
knows y'all are in
breaking the
house.
silence, was Matthew screaming. He was yanked out of the closet from right next to me. I stepped out. It was the guy in the Michael Myers mask, now with a knife. Matthew was
What did
being
I
wrestled
say?
to the ground,
What did I
but in
tell
the
you?
struggle, the guy dropped his knife. In a matter of seconds, Matthew was pinned down. I grabbed the knife and immediately stuck it in the back of the guy's thigh.
Smart.
He fell on his side, screaming in pain. Matthew got up and we started running downstairs. We went outside and sprinted to my neighbor's house. When we got there, we banged on the door until they answered. We explained our situation and they let us inside as they called the cops.
That's what y'all
To
should
make
have
a
done.
long
when
story
y'all got
short,
home.
the cops didn't find the guy. He was missing from the house when they
Dumbasses,
arrived. There was nothing to show for the encounter but a broken window and a missing kitchen knife. They looked for a blood trail, but never found one. I received no injuries, but Matthew wasn't as lucky. As he was struggling with the guy, he received a cut down his arm. Even today, I still think about that night. When I was 19, I lived at home with my parents. This happened on Halloween, and like every other year, my parents had me hand out candy to the kids that came by. I didn't mind. Our living room was right next to the front door, so I just put on a movie and get up whenever the doorbell rang. It was about 10 p.m. The doorbell rings were slowing down. By this point, both of my parents had gone to bed. I remember this almost perfectly. I was on the last scene of The Dark Knight when our home phone rang. I looked over to the left where the phone sat. Unknown caller, that's all it said.
No, I ain't answering that
Now,
shit. Not on
literally
no
just the other
Halloween,
day,
bro.
we got a new set of phones. They were given a new
Nah,
number
bro,
and
not on
hadn't
no
given it out to
Halloween.
anyone yet, so I doubted it was someone I knew. But I still thought I'd answer it just in case. I
Dumbass.
picked it up. Hello?
That's what happens, bro.
All I
Why
could
would
hear
you-
was heavy breathing,
Why would you answer
so
an
I hung
unknown
up.
caller on Halloween?
I figured they had the wrong number.
What?
Shortly after, the phone went off again. It said the same thing, unknown caller. I picked it up again. Who is this? This time, a male voice replied. I know where you live. I hung up
Nah,
again.
that's dead.
I stopped to think for a second. I was starting to realize that it was probably just someone trying to prank call me. I mean, it was Halloween night, I can't even blame them. But at the same time, that's something you'd expect from a kid, or at the very most, a teenager. And from what it sounded like, whoever was on the other end of that line was much older than a teenager. Over the course of the next 10 minutes, 6 or 7 more phone calls came in.
Bro.
Finally, I picked up again. This time, I didn't say anything. There were a few seconds of silence before the man started talking. I'll be honest, I don't remember exactly what was said, but it was something like how the guy was outside our house and that I needed to unlock the
Wait,
back
are
door
these
so he could
actually
get
true?
in. He said if we called the cops, he was going to
Crazy
kill
if they're
everyone
true.
inside before they could arrive. After that, the line went dead. I was basically fully convinced by this point that this wasn't a prank call. I went to the kitchen, crawling on all fours to stay out of the view of any windows. I grabbed the largest knife I could find. With knife in hand, I crawled to my parents' room and shook awake my dad. I whispered to him that someone was outside near the back door. He immediately got out of bed and grabbed his loaded revolver. As we crept through the house, I better explained the situation. I
Dad's
told him
got the
about all the
strap.
phone calls.
W.
When we got to the back door, he unlocked it and stepped outside with no hesitation. He shot one bolt into the air, and right as he did, 3 men popped out from a set of bushes right up against the house and started sprinting away. They ran straight into the forest our house was backed up to.
That's some
My dad chased them.
Scream type shit.
For a bit, but they were much
Bro.
faster than him. They disappeared into the trees. We never saw them again. We have no idea who they were. We called and told police, but there was nothing they could do. We still don't know how they got our phone number, or what they wanted. This happened last year on Halloween. I was 18 at the time, and my best friend Michael was 17. We both knew we were too old for trick-or-treating, but we also knew that handing out candy wouldn't be any fun. That's when Michael came up with an idea. There was this old abandoned house that was close to mine that we'd always said we'd explore at some point. We figured, what better night than Halloween? We waited until it got dark, and waited even more until there were much less trick-or-treaters outside. That's when we grabbed a couple flashlights and headed out. It took us a few minutes, but eventually we got to the house. Of course, since it was abandoned, it was a huge mess. Trash was scattered across the floor, windows were boarded up, you get the picture. We walked up to the front door. I was half expecting it to be locked, but it opened. Inside was pitch black. We stepped inside. Our flashlights didn't light up much, so we did the best we could in looking around. The house had 2 floors. We explored everything on the bottom and didn't find anything interesting.
Flashlight or some shit that's like extra bright, you know.
Upstairs. Up there, we immediately saw 2 rooms.
Like, bro, if I'm going in a
Michael
house,
went in the one on the right, and I went in the one on the left. I started exploring it, looking in drawers, in the closet. Still nothing of interest.
That'd be fun to hotbox, but then I'm out.
I was looking out the window when
bro, there's
blood-curdling
probably
screams
coyotes
shot
in
out from
there.
the other room. It was Michael. I ran
Why
over
is
to the room he
Michael
was
always
in.
getting injured, bro?
Initially, I didn't see anything. That was until I put my flashlight in the back left corner. There was Michael, but he had an arm around his neck.
Oh, fuck.
Someone wearing all black
Never
with a
mind, that would
Halloween
not
mask had Michael in
hotbox.
a
I would just
chokehold.
never go.
I could tell his face was turning red, so I did the
Yeah,
only
fuck
thing I
all
could
that
think
shit.
of. I threw my flashlight as hard as I could at the person. I managed to strike him in the side. He let go of Michael and
Smart.
shouted out in pain, holding his side. Now with no light, we ran downstairs. We managed to stumble out of the house in the dark. When we got
Why
out,
would
we
y'all
ran.
go upstairs? I
But
would've
not
just
before
stayed
looking back.
downstairs. No, actually, I
Right
wouldn't
when
have
we
even
ran
gone.
the moonlight, we saw 3
Fuck all
figures
that.
standing in the upstairs window.
I'm not
looking down
going to
at
that
us.
house. It
All
looks
of
like
them wearing that same
Pennywise
Halloween
lives there,
mask.
man. Fuck that
We
shit.
turned back around and ran even faster. We finally stopped when we made it back to my driveway. I bent over, breathing heavily. Neither of us knew what to think or do. We had no idea what we just came across. Later that night, Michael told me what happened when he entered that room.
And play games.
He got in there and started exploring it like every other room. After a while, he noticed something in the corner. He shined his flashlight at it and saw that it was a Halloween mask. He walked over to it, thinking it was propped up against the wall. It slightly moved, and that's when he realized it was a person. He screamed out, but was quickly put in a chokehold. That's when I came in. What disturbs me most is how Michael described being held. He said that whoever was in the mask had to have been using all their force on his neck. He wasn't just being restrained. He genuinely couldn't breathe for the good 20 seconds or so that he was held there. Like I said before, we don't know what we came across. We don't know what those guys were doing, but we both agree it wasn't something we were supposed to see. I truly believe we were almost killed that night.
Yeah, no shit, dumbass. Why would you go to an abandoned house, bro? When there could be coyotes, warhogs, bro, fucking alligators. Like, bro, are you serious?